Welcome, welcome. Mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, gender. Countdown initiated. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So when you're in the garden and you think that things are taking too long, it's not that they're taking too long. They have their appointed time. Everything we do has its appointed time as well. So learn from your garden. And if you don't have a garden, that's all right. It's perfectly fine. There are other things that if we look around, we can learn from them. You don't have a garden, but you know somebody with a dog? A well-mannered dog. And when they say sit, they sit. Eh? Do you think that that training took 2 minutes? No. You had to be patient with the animal. So if you're patient with the animal, that is your first lesson, to be patient with oneself as you learn. That right there is the key, you know. Because when you're patient with yourself as you are learning, you will find that you're not walking under so much stress. You're not fretting as much. You fret less, actually. Take your time. Taking one's time brings peace of mind. And you will notice that repetition teaches. Oh, well, that's how you train the animal, is it not? Doing it over and over and over and over and over. How did somebody find out that the crow could speak? By patiently teaching it words. So don't give up on changes you want to make in your life. You put the hand in the seed bag like a gardener. You just put your hand in the bag and you will pull out the seed that you want every single time. Confidence. Even if it has to do, with needing more money to maintain your bills, to save, to do things. When someone is saving money, they are patient. I want you to bring the stock market to mind for a moment. Even though the stock market is invisibly controlled, it still follows principle. Ebb and flow. So sometimes the price is high, sometimes the price is low, right? Look at what happens. Because people are so, I don't want to say emotional, but because they do not practice discernment, because they haven't learned discernment, they will, if the market's in a crisis, they panic. They will either panic and sell all their shares. Oh, listen to it. There's no or, but they will panic and sell their shares. Unless, of course, you recognize holding things, just holding your purchase. It may dip, it may rise, but allow your purchase to remain constant. Because somebody said, don't remember who, when people are panicking and selling, that's your cue to buy. And that seems really cold and heartless on the surface. But how did they come to that conclusion? They came to that conclusion through many years of observation of humanity. You see, everybody watches humanity, but humanity does not watch itself. If you watched yourself, you would recognize how we behave. I'm telling you this because it actually goes hand in hand with the garden. You must see how something grows. And the only way to know how something grows is to observe it so that you can do what? Make a change based upon how that thing grows. So if you look at the market and you find that it is fluctuating all the time, let it fluctuate. You don't fluctuate with it. Observe it. That's why they can tell you, buy low, sell high. Right? Because they have observed. So part of changing your life is to observe your behavior. You observe the behavior so that you know how to act. Obviously, because when the market is low, you buy. Do you not? So everything that is around us, if we would observe it, can teach us many things. It can. I told you one the other day with the eagle and the crow. Everybody thinks the crow is pesky. But do you know how bold you have to be to jump on the back of an eagle? And that's what it does, and it will peck at it because it's usually flying over its nesting area, so it wants to protect its young. And so it'll jump on the back of the eagle and peck at it. But the eagle doesn't really fuss about it. Why is that? Because it knows itself. It doesn't know about everybody else. It knows itself. So the eagle, whenever it is under attack by the crow riding on its back, the eagle does what it does best. It rises above the clouds. And the air is real thin up there. And the crow can't handle that altitude. So it will drop off. Why? Because it wants to preserve its life. That is why. But the eagle, if you learn from it, it doesn't fret, doesn't freak out, doesn't do fancy acrobatics. It reserves fancy acrobatics for mating. You know what? That's a different day. But it does what it does. So if you learn from that story, be like the eagle and learn about yourself. How does it learn about itself? It grows. It's just like, how does a rooster know it's a rooster? Because it's not born crowing. It doesn't do that out the gate. It's months before it crows. And you have no idea what it is. It's months before the pullet, which is the hen, will lay eggs when they're brand new. So you can't tell what they are at a particular age. The only thing you can do is observe to see what it becomes. And when you start seeing what it becomes, you're going to recognize the pattern of a rooster, and you will recognize the pattern of a hen if you pay attention. So that when it's young and little, it has a way of doing things. What is your pattern? What is your habit? What is that thing that you do over and over and over again? Me, I have noticed I get real mad. I get mad. And I said to myself, girl, really? Is that necessary? Like, for instance, on the radio, they were talking about a young man in the States who needed an x-ray. And it was going to cost him, allegedly, $67,000 for this x-ray. You know, we Canadians, we go to our family doctor, he writes a requisition, and you go to the lab and you get your x-ray. Boom, you're done. Bada boom, bada bing, yeah? We don't pay for that. Well, our taxes we do, but I digress. So it turns out this young man built an x-ray machine in his garage. You better hush. He sure did. Now, this is the story. I haven't done any research. I was just listening to the radio because it was playing. And I don't even like the radio playing. But listen to the story again. What made me angry, though? Because this is why I tell you I get mad easily over things that, and I'm like, Angela, why? You got to change that. Do you really like that? You like being bothered so easily by stuff? And I was like, no. And I was like, okay, so I want more peace, thanks. I just want to see and don't see, hear and don't hear, as we say in Barbados. So instead of being annoyed, I was like, wait, so he built an x-ray machine? He sure did. He took his own x-ray and he went to the doctor and dropped it off, and they were not pleased. You shouldn't be doing that in your garage, right? So when I heard that story, I thought, well, he had two choices. He could have sat down and bemoaned the fact that he didn't have any money to pay for the x-ray, or that he didn't know how he was going to get money for the x-ray. Or he said to himself, man, there's got to be a way I can get out of this. And he used what he was good at, putting things together, a regular day MacGyver, if you will. He turned his attention towards what he was good at. He said, there's a solution to this. Why should I have to do what you're asking me to do? Why should I have to suffer and not be able to afford this? He goes, there has to be a way. And because he said there has to be a way, he began to see one emerge. He didn't put the way there. It emerged. Now, if he had sat down and bemoaned his situation and complained and picketed and rioted and whatever else and burned things down, he wouldn't have come up with the idea, because that's not where he would be. That's not where he was looking. So to learn from that, turn oneself towards possibilities of success versus keeping ourselves through excuses as to why we cannot. If you look for the reasons that you cannot, you will find the confirmation of not being able to do it. Well, it's a seed. And it's a seed of what? I cannot. So the fruit of I cannot seeds is what? I cannot by action. But if you say, well, there has to be a way, that which one seeks, they find. So if you're looking for the way to success, the way to freedom, then the ideas emerge naturally. And because you have observed that, you say, oh, wait a minute. And now people would say, but Angela, the money, he still didn't get the money. You're missing the point. He didn't need money. He needed an x-ray. He didn't need money. He needed an x-ray. So this is why he built the x-ray machine. So it's not the money that you need. What is it that you actually require? So this is part of the observation. What do you actually require? Stability, security, peace of mind. Is that what you? Yes, but we want to disguise that as, oh, I need money. Really? He still built the machine. And I thought to myself, shoot, I'm not going to say it out loud because you want him to be out there doing the best, right? Because I know you're all thinking it. But just know that we're thinking, we're on the same wavelength here. So there's observation is your friend. But we make sure that when you observe, you are observing to learn so that you can apply. I have that vine out in the yard, and I got to take a picture of it and post it. It has wrapped itself around patio furniture. It's like, oh, you're not using this? I'll take it. It's been too rainy to sit on the patio. But the bush is like, oh, I can use these. So it has anchored itself. It has anchored itself to something that to it is not moving. Well, that's the point. To anchor yourself to something means you want to secure your footing, secure your foothold, so that you're not tossed to and fro. So what are you anchored to? Are you anchored to things that will bow and break under pressure? Or are you anchored to something that is secure and will not change? And I know people say, well, change is inevitable. Well, then, if you recognize that change is inevitable, you will also recognize the catalyst of change is the law. Everything changes except the law. The law remains the same. You plant, you reap. That is law. What you plant is what you reap, is also law. And how you feel about what you plant will determine the size of your bounty as you reap it. So you see, the law will not change. The inevitable outcome of planting is reaping. Period. You plant, you reap. And every year, what do? What happens? Every year, you plant and you reap. Some things you don't have to keep planting. We call them either annuals or perennials. But they come back on their own because the seed is always there. So you see, my beautiful friends, just a little bit of observation. Just a little bit of observation of things around you. Well, you have to put fuel or petrol in your gas tank, do you not? Why? Ask the man on the side of the road who has to have a jerry can filled up and brought back. Without fuel, one does not move. Your passion in life is your fuel. Oh, yes. That's why it fires you up to action. Right? What do you love doing? And you'll find that because you love doing it and you get up and you do it, it doesn't even feel like work per se, but obviously it is work because it is an action that expresses how you feel on the inside. right? So observe today as you go about. And as you observe, what can you apply? What can you apply? You see, that's what's so beautiful. Just observe. And you see, when you start to observe, whew, I keep telling you that everybody watches humanity, but humanity does not watch itself. Come, draw a little closer. Let me tell you something. You may or may not believe me. I may lose you to the thoughts of, is she crazy? If I watch you long enough, and I know what makes you happy, and I do that thing, see how that is? I know what you like, so I give you what you like. Now, if I wanted to be nefarious, yes? If I wanted to exploit you or use you for my own gain, I would do exactly the same thing. I would watch you and do what you like so that you will act in the way I want you to act. You see how similar those things are? How gray, if you will? Indeed. So when I want you to hear what I'm saying, I give you the opportunity to listen. I tell you to come closer to me, darling. Let me whisper to you. Because it must be of great importance if I whisper it. Because it is important that you grasp this lesson of self-observation. Because when you know yourself, you know how you are going to behave in any circumstance. But if you don't know yourself and an observer knows you, now you begin to understand. You're not a pawn, my friends. You are a sovereign being.